All right, all right. Part two: immigration, consternation. The left has no shortage of hypocritical doings and sayings, as we've talked about. I have a whole chapter in my book about their hypocrisy. Every day we see it more and more and more. And there's, of course, no shortage of it on this issue of immigration. Um, some of the loudest, or most prominent, I should say, liberals in our recent events, recent history, have contradicted themselves to such an extent as to be clownish. I mean, it is the blatant, it's not just hypocrisy like, oops, I said something different than before. It's blatant hypocrisy. It's like, I just don't give a damn what I might have said or pretended to mean a couple years ago in favor of what I'm saying today. You know, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama are no longer in power, thank God. But that doesn't stop them from becoming anti-Trump folks and speaking out against the best needs of the country with regard to immigration, despite the fact that as senators in 2006, they both voted numerous times to fund a border fence, if you will. This difference between a fence and a wall might be semantic at this point. And in fact, Congress, along with Chuck Schumer, who was a majority leader in the Senate at the time, all ended up passing what was called the Secure Fence Act in 2006. It passed 80 to 19. That was border fence building, money to build a fence, part of which got built, but it never got finished. And it never got finished because change of hearts, change of minds, conflict within the liberals and the Democrat Party about immigration. Every one of these people spoke out strongly, both by their votes for this act and their words. Hillary voted to spend money for the barrier and spoke out about a barrier. These are videos you can go online and look at. Obama, that was 2016, in an early campaign for president speech, she said this. And then 4 months later, she's saying just the opposite, because Trump was also for a border. Can't have that. Obama voted for that wall, as I mentioned, and Chuck Schumer also on a video on the floor of the Senate saying that illegal aliens, they should be called illegal aliens, not undocumented, that the border fence makes a border at the fence makes the border more secure, that Americans don't like illegal immigration. He was saying all this stuff back in 2009 is when that was, during Obama's presidency. Mr. Obama, who claimed to have the most deportations of any president in history. And maybe he did, but what's changed? Because they're all speaking against it now. What's changed is Trump's in the White House, and their little temper tantrum, their little box they're in, makes them hypocrites. So you want to ask the question, were they lying about wanting to secure the border then? Or are they lying now when they say they don't or want to do it differently than they did. Well, I contend they were lying then because I don't think they ever had any intention of really securing the border. Not really. And that's because I believe they expect dividends from having an open border. We'll get into that. So, what we're basically saying is that because of ideology, liberals and progressives are willing to become major hypocrites, blatant hypocrites and liars, all to be resisting Trump. And they're willing to create sanctuary cities that release criminal, illegal aliens. Not just illegal aliens, criminal and repeat criminal, illegal aliens, who often then go on to hurt, commit more crime, hurt Americans, and kill Americans. And then when that happens, they just yawn. They sigh. They go, whatever. We have more important fish to fry with regard to immigration. And then, of course, they gotta lie about the numbers and lie about who's getting hurt and lie about how good and nice and ethical these people are. And although the vast majority of them may well be good and nice and ethical, they ignore the part that they've caused and the problem that they've caused with the illegal ones, the rapists, the murderers. And when Trump dares to call out the fact that some of these people are rapists and murderers in his campaign, they call him a racist. He doesn't like the brown people coming across the border. He didn't say all. He didn't mean all. And everyone knows exactly what he said and meant. He meant there should be some border to prevent the bad ones getting in as well as the good ones. Duh. So, what are we saying? What am I saying? What I'm saying is that because of their emotions, because of their ideology, because of their hatred for Trump, because of their resistance, because of their sanctuary cities, you and me, we, because of the potential of being, hurt or killed by criminal illegal aliens that they're willing to let loose on the streets of America, you and I are just collateral damage to the left. That's all we are. That's all we are. We're just collateral damage to these idiots. And I quite frankly ain't playing. Homie ain't playing. I ain't collateral damage to anybody. They're not turning me into a stat. A statistic. To hell with liberals and to hell with liberalism. Now, before I mentioned that one of the things that the left has to do to thread this needle is to confer rights of Americans to illegals. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you remember the big stink with Gitmo, giving rights of non-citizens, giving the rights of illegal combatants the rights of citizens. So in other words, this isn't the first time they've tried to do this. Now the argument was that we captured them in a war, and they're prisoners of war, and prisoners of war have certain rights. And the Geneva Convention says they have certain rights. And so the left wanted to confer our rights, the best rights of any country in the world, when it suits them, our rules of due process, and having a lawyer, and having a trial, and all this, instead of just being stuck in a hole in Gitmo, and you're out of the game. And people like me from the right said, except there's a little thing you're forgetting and missing on purpose. And that is the Geneva Convention is for legal combatants, meaning people who are in a military uniform fighting, conventionally otherwise, but fighting as a representative of a state, a nation, a country. The War on Terror saw none of that, with the exception of maybe the Revolutionary Guard in Iraq. Most of the people we captured were not in a uniform, did not have a flag of a nation on them, but of a terrorist group. They were illegal combatants, found on a battlefield, captured on a battlefield. The Geneva Convention does not apply. And as such, we could have done anything we wanted with them. Now, because we're Americans and we're humane for the most part, we didn't torture all but one guy, and he wasn't captured that way anyway, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, which led us to finding Osama bin Laden, was waterboarded. And we can go into the argument as to whether waterboarding is torture or not at another time. But we didn't do it anyway. The people in Gitmo were treated with the highest amount of respect. They were allowed to do their prayers, to have their Quran, to eat their meals the way they wanted to eat without, they didn't have to eat American food, for instance. They were allowed to keep their religion. They were given a lot of latitude. But they were not given the rights of American citizens, because not only were they not American citizens, the Geneva Convention didn't apply to them, and there was no trial required to be given to them. Liberals are too squishy to care about it, but there used to be a time in this country that if you, even as an American soldier, did something in wartime on a battlefield, in combat or something that was at a level of offense high enough, you could be just put against a wall and shot while you're just marching to the next battle. Granted, we may not do that much anymore, but there are what they call military tribunals and battlefield justice, where you could just get shot on command for violating some major offense. And now we have enemy combatants that we're treating like our own children. Liberals want these people to go to court. It's just mind-boggling. And now they're doing the same thing by trying to get illegal aliens to have every rights that American citizens have. Why is this wrong? Well, why not just give it to them? After all, shouldn't everybody have the rights of Americans? If America is so great, shouldn't everyone have these rights? No. If everyone had them, no one would appreciate them. One, that just goes without saying. If you just gave it to them free with nothing to expected in return, they would take them for granted, and no one would appreciate them, and they would be meaningless. But another reason is because there's a certain understanding that American citizens have with their government, the government they run. Social compact, the agreement, the handshake. The government recognizes your rights and confers privileges, some of which are called rights but are really privileges, other privileges, onto an American citizen. And in return, that American citizen has to do a number of things. They can't be traitors. They have to be of good character and follow the rules, pay their taxes. They have to be loyal, have fealty to the United States, and they have to assimilate into our culture. Learn the language, understand its traditions, and honor them. In other words, they have to want to become Americans, for those who aren't already. That was the agreement. That was the agreement. That was the agreement. And where the hell is that now? How does an illegal alien have any need for assimilation or to speak our language if they don't already, or to learn our traditions? What need would he or she have to do that, especially if the left is enforcing it on them? So no, they shouldn't have our rights if they're not willing to do what other citizens, even ones born here, have to do. Why should an illegal alien not have to do it and get the same rights? It's ridiculous. Not logical. Of course, it's not logical. What's another reason that liberals give for siding with illegal aliens? Well, there's the whole argument about they're doing the work Americans won't do. I shot this to crap in my book, but it's even more obvious today. They're actually taking work from Americans. You know, we just got over the Great Recession. In the Great Recession, nobody had any damn jobs. Very few people had some jobs. There was a lot of unemployment. And it was really hard hit in the black and Hispanic communities. But, you know, black people historically don't like illegal immigration for a very good reason. It's because historically, blacks have had to take over a lot of the low rung of the ladder type of jobs. And upward mobility was more difficult for them, rightly or wrongly. But now you have a whole bunch of non-Americans moving in, taking over those jobs, doing it maybe even cheaper than they would do because of, you know, minimum wage laws and other things. They're out of a job for two reasons: the bad economy and illegal immigration. They're getting it from both ends. But this whole notion that Americans won't do these jobs, well, it's twofold. One, liberals have told all these kids, you got to go to college, and then when you get to college, you're going to get degrees that's going to demand that when you get out, you can demand a job that's higher paying than the low rungs of the ladder would normally give you. So you're going to immediately go into a living wage. You're immediately going to get a high enough paying job where you will skip over being poor, and you will skip over having to flip burgers and all this. Problem is, of course, not every kid can go to college. Not every kid is smart enough to go to college. Not every kid can afford college. And not every kid who goes to college gets a degree in anything worth anything, because underwater liberal basket weaving and progressive, spice smelling isn't going to get you a $50,000 a year job. Just ain't. So what happened? We decided as a country, no, the liberals decided as a group, that the low rungs of the ladder in terms of the, types of jobs you get weren't worthy of the elitist liberal college student or anybody American. And so let's let the little people take that. Let's let the minorities take that. And they say they're for the minorities. But the thing is, the minorities did take that. And now the illegal aliens are taking it from them. So they're being disrespected by the liberals on one end, and then they're being thwarted by them on the other end. It's a never-ending thing with these people. Turns out, burger flipping wasn't meant to be a living wage. A job flipping burgers was not meant to raise a family. A job in a first or second rung of the ladder was meant for an individual, a kid, a college-age kid, a person just out of college maybe who hasn't used his master to get into the career he wants. That kind of a job. For one person, renting an apartment, leasing a car, not raising a family. The liberals conflate a living wage with a burger flipping job so they can say that Americans don't want those jobs anymore. Nice try. Doesn't fly. In part 3, we're going to talk about the logic or lack thereof with regard to building a wall at the border. Hang with it.